Hi everyone, welcome to Extra Blue. I'm your host, Elena Sonneson. Thanks so much for being here with me today. Today's episode requires a bit more of an introduction because I actually recorded this podcast over a year ago with athlete Jack Young. That being said, it is still an incredibly relevant conversation with background on who Jack is and what skiing means to him. Jack is a U.S. cross-country skier whose path to the World Cup and now to the Olympic Games has been anything but straightforward. Jack grew up playing multiple sports, balancing skiing alongside football, baseball, and track, before eventually committing fully to Nordic skiing. He went on to ski for Colby College, where he continued to develop not just as an athlete, but as a thoughtful, analytical competitor. Someone who's always been willing to question how and why he trains the way he does. When we recorded this conversation a year ago, Jack was in the early stages of breaking through internationally. We talked about his upbringing, his decision to fully commit to skiing, the challenges of transitioning to college racing, and what it felt like to toe the line at his first World Cup starts. This included his sprint in Canmore, and at the time, everything still felt very new to him. The learning curve was steep, and the future was a little uncertain. Since then, Jack's career has taken a major step forward. This season, he finished 4th place in the World Cup sprint in Davos, a result he later described as a dream come true. Going into the year, Jack had set a clear goal: to make a World Cup sprint final. Not only did he do that, but he went even further, validating years of focused work and a deliberate shift towards sprint-specific training. I was in Davos when this happened, and it was really unbelievable to see Jack have this performance, and it was so exciting for the team to see a breakthrough like that. Reflecting on the Davos result, Jack later wrote, "The result really legitimizes how I've been approaching training over the past couple of years." He has since adjusted his training to better support that focus, slightly reducing overall volume, sharpening intensity, and prioritizing rest so he can truly hit his hardest efforts with quality. This year also marked a major life transition. Jack is now a full-time skier for the Craftsbury Green Racing Project, no longer balancing training with school. About that shift, he shared with me, "I was definitely ready for this change. No part of me grows tired of being in Craftsbury full-time." Most recently, Jack qualified for the Olympic Games with Team USA, a huge milestone that every skier dreams about. But with that achievement came another reality: the possibility that he might not get to race. Due to Olympic start limits and the fact that this year's Olympic sprint is classic, well, Jack's specialty might be skate. Jack finds himself now potentially on the outside looking in when it comes to the starting lineup in just over a week. In a candid blog post, Jack opened up about how that news has affected him. He says, "The realization that there was a high chance I wouldn't start at the Olympics hit me harder than I expected." As congratulations poured in, Jack struggled with the feeling that he might be letting people down, even though he had accomplished something extraordinary just by making the team. Over time, that perspective is starting to shift. He says, "I realize that the people who have given me significant help along the way understand the progress I've made." What stands out most in Jack's writing and in this conversation is his ability to hold complexity, pride and disappointment, gratitude and frustration, long-term vision alongside immediate uncertainty. Even as he faces the possibility of not racing, he has committed to preparing as if he would. He says, "The only way to approach an important race that you're not sure you'll be doing is to fully assume that you will be doing it." This episode captures Jack not at a finish line, but in the middle of becoming, learning how to trust his process, refining his identity as a sprinter, and figuring out how to show up fully even when the outcome isn't guaranteed. It's a conversation about commitment, patience, and choosing belief, even when the path forward is not clear. It's about what it really means to chase something big and what happens when progress, pride, and disappointment all exist at the same time. Jack Young, welcome to the podcast. I'm really proud to be supported by Gear West, not just because they support athletes like me, but because they show up for the entire Nordic community. From helping kids learn to ski, to supporting high school and adult racers, to backing and participating in iconic events like the American Birkebeiner and so many local races, Gear West invests in what makes the Midwest Nordic ski community special. If you have goals on snow this season, whether it's your first race or a personal best, Gear West has the knowledge, gear, and support to help you get there. Stop by the campus in Long Lake, just a few minutes past Ridgedale. Welcome, Jack Young, to the Extra Blue podcast. How are you doing today?
Good. Enjoying the sun in Livigno. Did some intervals this morning and just, feeling good.
Yeah. So can you tell everyone, all the listeners, where exactly we are, why we're here, what are we doing?
Yeah, so we're in Livigno, Italy. We're at a post-Tour de Ski kind of like altitude camp. So mostly recovering for most of us from the tour and starting to get back to training a little bit and preparing for the next string of World Cups.
And how has the season been going for you so far?
The season's been going just about as well as I could have possibly imagined so far. Been qualifying consistently for sprint heats and was just outside of qualifying in the classic sprint during the tour. Which, I mean, qualifying for sprints was pretty much the goal coming in for this year. And I mean, I guess that's the reason I'm still here in Europe and I haven't gone home yet. So yeah, things have been going well.
Yeah, it's been pretty exciting to watch your progression from last season into this season and then the start of this season also. I feel like it's been really impressive to just watch you kind of pop off in some of these sprint races, and cool to watch you also in your first distance World Cups during the Tour de Ski as well. I definitely want to talk to you about that a little bit later in the podcast, but before we dive into that, I want to just kind of get to know you a little bit better and share your story with our listeners. So can you share with everyone where you grew up and how you learned how to ski?
Yeah, so I grew up in Jay, Vermont. It borders Canada, so it's right in the northern tip of Vermont. 5 minutes from a resort called Jay Peak. So and my both my parents were like downhill skiers as hobbies. Um and so I learned how to downhill ski when I was 2. That's how I started. And eventually me and my sister got introduced to cross country skiing through this really small program in Newport, Vermont, which is a really small city. Barely a city near where I live. That's how we started. My sister Callie got super into it really early, and I was a little bit more reluctant to really start committing time to it. And then eventually, a couple years later, we got introduced to the Craftspear Outdoor Center, where Callie and I really started to pick it up and start going to races and actually start like training for the sport. I was probably late elementary school, middle school at this point. Um, and yeah, I just started to love it more and more over the years. It was never my only sport. I played football and baseball growing up. Um, and yeah, that's how I grew up and just kind of just got more serious about skiing pretty much every year until I got to college.
Yeah. Well, I originally first knew your sister Callie, and so when
Mhm.
I first heard about Jack Young coming up the pipeline, I was like, "Oh, it's Callie's younger brother." That makes sense.
Yeah.
So, how much did you look up to Callie while you were growing up, and how much did kind of her older sibling leadership kind of sway you towards cross country skiing?
Yeah, Callie influenced me so much. Like I can hardly understate that. Her influence on my skiing career, like, because she I mean, as I said earlier, she as soon as she started skiing, she was like 100% committed. She was doing a lot of training during her other sports because she played softball, and did a little bit of cross country running in high school. But she was training hard through those other seasons, and she got really good results early as like a U16 and a U18. So that was always something to look up for. I was always a little less motivated in those younger years. So like me being 3 years younger than her, I she stayed as a good training partner for me a little later than maybe she should have. Um, but yeah, it was always so inspiring to have her to look up to because she was really achieving on a high level from a really young age, and I wasn't. Um, so yeah, she kind of showed me the way of how to get fast at skiing.
Yeah, that's super cool. I similarly had an older sister who was a pretty significant influence on my skiing in really my entire childhood. It's cool to have someone, they're at the time they're like your superhero. She's still my superhero, I would say, my older
Yeah,
sister, but just setting a great example, and then also you see through them how fun something like skiing could be, and they make it more exciting too, and it's fun to kind of follow their footsteps. So that's awesome. And you mentioned that you two kind of grew up skiing together with a small program, and then you started, uh, I guess, skiing and competing with Craftsberry. So what did that look like? I mean, how long of a drive is it from where you grew up to Craftsberry? Because I know that some people might say, "Oh, it's just northern Vermont," but that's actually, uh, Jay Peak to Craftsberry isn't right next door to each other. So what did that look like transporting to Craftsberry? Were you going every day after school, or were you just going on weekends? What did that kind of look like at a young age, say like elementary through middle school?
yeah. So we started going to Craftsbury consistently when I was probably in fifth grade, sixth grade, something like that. So yeah, shout out to my mom for bringing me and Callie to Craftsbury. It was a 45-minute drive. And we probably went um I think it was probably 2 times a week um during the like fall when we were in school, after school, and then a little less actually during the winter because we had skiing available at home. And there's like really small like programs we could go to just ski around. And then in the summer we were going 3 or 4 times a day. Um, a week, not
Hmm.
3 or 4 times a day. And yeah, my mom was driving us, so she was a big part in making that accessible to us. And yeah, it was not close.
Yeah. And it sounds like you were playing a few other sports once you got to high school too. So you've mentioned to me that you played football in the fall and then baseball in the spring, and you even dabbled with a little track and field with the throwing events, right? So how was
hmm
it kind of coordinating all of that once you got to high school on top of your skiing?
Yeah, it was I never saw myself as like a only a skier until later in high school. So it was almost easier to balance my in my freshman and sophomore years because like in the fall I was a football player, in the winter I was a skier, and in the spring I was a baseball player. Like it was pretty simple like that. And obviously I trained really hard for skiing in the summer because I had time to do so. But I was also like going to like the summer football workouts, and I played a little bit of summer baseball those first 2 years of high school. Um, and I definitely wasn't as fast as I could have been at skiing. Because especially because of playing football in the fall, like I just didn't train, wasn't able to train that much. I was really tired, was really sore all the time, from playing a contact sport. But I still got to go out and do some like time trials on the weekends sometimes, and some like good long workouts on the weekends. Um, and then baseball was great because as a skier, especially a young skier, you want to be taking some time off in the spring, especially if you had a tough race season. And baseball was just such a great outlet for it because it's not that physically demanding of a sport. And I had so much fun playing in April, May, and June before training really got ramped up back in the summer. So it was a really great balance those first 2 years. And then my junior spring was COVID, was the outbreak of COVID. So baseball season actually got canceled that year. So I was able to train a lot in May and June, which I'd never been able to do before, which is a pretty cool experience. I realized that I really liked it, that I didn't need as long of a break as I was taking. I got a lot faster at skiing that year. I still had football that fall, so that was still a bit of a break from ski training. Um, but that definitely opened my eyes to kind of my priorities in sports that junior spring where I missed baseball, but what I was replacing it with, like a lot of training, was just as good. And it made me realize I really wanted to focus on skiing from then on out.
So you said junior year springtime is when you made that switch of, hey, I am really enjoying this skiing thing and I want to invest a little more time in it and maybe put more focus on that.
Yeah, like cause my sophomore year I was still considering trying to like play D3 baseball in college. Um I mean, cause I wasn't that good. I was fine at baseball. I probably could have played D3, definitely not D1. Um and so yeah, and then they kind of switched in my mind junior year. Still obviously wanted to play those sports. It wasn't like I was going to quit. Um, but yeah, just tried to put a little more emphasis on skiing.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. So at what point then did you decide, uh, I want to ski in college. I want to go like full-time skiing. And how did you kind of go through the whole college recruiting process? And ultimately, you landed at Colby, which is where
Hmm.
you are still at school. So, what did that whole process look like for you?
Yeah. Okay, so there's actually something I left out about my junior spring is that was the first time I made JNs, junior nationals.
Mm,
I think that was another reason why I was starting to realize that I really wanted to focus on skiing because like actually finally finding some success because that was the first time I made it for New England. And then that spring is the junior spring is obviously pretty important for recruiting. That's when you start talking to coaches. Um, so that spring, I reached out to pretty much all of the ISA coaches. I knew I wanted to ski in the East because I mean that's what Callie was doing, and she was having so much fun doing it. Um, and then I got a glowing response from Tracy, the Colby coach. Because when I reached out to her, she sent me a really long email back about how she was excited about me as a skier and would really love to meet me. Um, so that she caught on my good side really quickly. And that relationship has just gotten better since. Um, yeah.
so, moral of the story is that we just have to butter you up to get what we want. If Tracy sends a really nice email, oh, okay, I guess we'll go to Colby.
Pretty much, yeah. It ended up being like, yeah, perfect fit. Um, a level of really good level of skiers there for me at the time.
Uh-huh.
Because I was skiing well, but I wasn't that fast. I would have been at the bottom of a team like UVM or like Dartmouth at this point because they were getting a lot better at that point. And I was right in the middle of the pack at Colby. It was great training partners for me in a place I could see myself growing and rising to the top pretty quickly, which was important to me.
Yeah. That's cool. So what were those first few years like for you at Colby? Was it a big transition to go into, the fall college training? Did you feel well prepared for that? Or what was it like finally not having football season in the fall and instead you're going all in on school and ski training?
Yeah, I mean, my first reaction to it, I think I remember like talking to my parents like a couple weeks and being like, "Oh my God, this is so much easier." Like, because all you do is you go to class and you have organized training pretty much every day with like a really committed group of athletes. Um, it just everything just worked together to like be like really high level academics and really high level athletics and a group of guys I really liked hanging out with. So that first fall, it was just like kind of this aha moment. I was like, wow, this really could work for me, and I really like doing this um, year round. And yeah, that's the take home is it felt easier than what I'd been doing in the past, and I was having a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah, that's cool because I know that's not really the story for everyone. Some people really struggle with that transition, from high school to college, not only academically, but moving away from home and then also the change in training load. It can definitely be a transition for a lot of folks. So it's
Hmm.
nice you had such a seamless time, and I'm sure that Tracy made it as welcoming as possible. And also probably shout out to whoever were the senior captains on the Colby ski team at that point, because I know uh, that that environment isn't always a given, right? It's
Hmm.
a privilege to kind of walk into that type of environment where it is so welcoming and easy to transition. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, like exactly. Like huge shout out to Tracy, and then huge shout out to Aaron Bianco, Torsten Brinkema, and Foss Kirker, who were the three captains my freshman year. It was like they created such a welcoming environment and really showed the way of how you can have a really good time at college while training really hard. And yeah, I can't thank them enough for that experience my freshman year.
Yeah. So what did you know going into school what you wanted to study, or did you have to explore that a little bit?
I had no clue. I I always liked history in high school. I was pretty good at math. And I liked it. I didn't love it, but I was good at it, so that always helps. Um, so I took my like required math class my freshman fall and actually had a really great time doing it. So I thought I was gonna be a math major at that point. And then I think I took an education class the next semester and I fell in love with that and I knew I wanted to do that and I kind of after that was balancing how much I wanted to pursue history versus mathematics and eventually settled on a education history double major and a mathematics minor.
Oh, nice. Okay, so how's that been now year four? How has it been
hmm
balancing all of that, a double major and a minor, on top of all the ski racing?
I mean, I was lucky enough that I would had the foresight to take a really hard load of classes my sophomore year, where I got all my distribution requirements out of the way and a lot of like the more boring classes of my majors out of the way, and then have been able to take only three classes my junior spring and now my senior spring coming up, which I've been really lucky to be able to do with skiing. So it's never been too tricky. Like I've obviously had like I mean all college students have hard times with training and balancing schoolwork. But it's nothing's been too terrible.
Hmm. That's cool. I don't
Yeah.
think every college kid would say that. So that's
Yeah.
really impressive. Okay, so I want to kind of transition now and talk about last season because you had
Mhm.
your first World Cup start last year in Canmore. You qualified for the World Cup, the skate sprint, right? Not the classic sprint though.
No, it was both because
You did. Okay.
that's how just how the starts worked for the North
Okay.
American World Cups, yeah.
Okay. So, can you share with us a little bit about how the beginning of last season went and how you ended up qualifying for those sprint races and why didn't we see you in Minneapolis also? Can you just explain to the listeners kind of how that worked out?
Yeah, so I started last season with a goal to qualify for the North American World Cups because obviously the US gets extra starts. It's a great opportunity to kind of break it onto that next level. It was almost the goal was there not because like I had really had too many ambitions about skiing professionally yet or skiing on that high of a level yet. It was just something that I thought I could maybe achieve, and that's just how my brain works. If there's something that I could achieve, it'd be really cool to achieve that. So I went into the fall of training thinking, okay, how do I get really good at skate sprint qualifiers? Because that was what I'd always been better at, and it's how I felt my road to qualifying was. So I did a lot of work on that, and tried to come in as rested and almost peaked as possible for the first Super Tour in Anchorage. And I ended up winning that qualifier, which was a big surprise to most people, including me. Um, but it seemed like everything had worked out at that point, and I had a pretty mediocre nationals qualifier, which bumped me to I think like the last start of the last place on the rankings list for people who would still get a start. So I only got Canmore because other people who had like maybe gone to U23s or I think it was just yeah U20 the U23 crowd was coming back from Minneapolis. So I didn't have a Minneapolis start until um, Ben got mono, which made me get the start from Minneapolis, which is a funny story in itself because like I think 3 hours before I was supposed to like get on a flight back to Vermont, I got a call from Matt Whitcomb that was like, "Don't get on that flight. We have a start for you in Minneapolis." So that was crazy. And yeah, that's how I came into those starts.
Okay, so going into Canmore, what was your goal?
hmm The goal was to qualify. I knew it was a stretch goal because I mean, it's obviously my first World Cup start. And the only really like amazing qualifier I'd had in my life was the Anchorage one. Like
Mhm.
I was 11th in the qualifier at Senior Nats, so which is certainly not a World Cup top 30 performance. Um, but I felt prepared for it, and I felt that that was a pretty good goal to have. I mean, it's the easiest objective goal I think to have in World Cup sprinting because it's just such a clear divide between qualifying and not qualifying. Um, so yeah, and then I got there. I realized the course suited me really well because uh, jump skating or like the technique people use for steep hills and sprinting is definitely my strong suit. And Canmore had a lot of that, and it was really short. So that was exciting. Felt amazing in the pre-race the day before, which gave me more confidence. And then like yeah, just ripped the qualifier of my life the next day, which was good timing, I guess.
Yeah. Did you feel any pressure or expectations, either from yourself or from other people? Or were you, what was kind of like that mindset with the start?
Well, that was the nice thing was that it was the only World Cup probably I'll ever ski where I had no pressure expectations. I was kind of free rolling into it. Like I was the last person to qualify. Um, like obviously I'd had a good result earlier in December, but like it wasn't like I was expected to qualify. So I was really relaxed coming in. Obviously still super nervous because I mean how could you not
Hmm.
be nervous for your first World Cup start? But there was no pressure on me, which I think may have actually helped me succeed there.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. So, okay, remind me where did you qualify? What place?
I qualified 11th, which is still my
11th.
second best qualifier.
Yeah, that's super cool. And then how did the
hmm
quarterfinals go for you in Canmore?
Man, I felt like a deer in the headlights for that. Um, I was in a heat. I was actually the lowest bib in my heat, I think.
Oh,
Or
wow.
it was lowest bib or second lowest bib in my heat, which was weird to look around and feel like I had actually had one of the faster qualifiers of that group. But I raced it a little bit scared, a little cautious, a little nervous. I went straight to the back, and purposefully, um, and just relaxed in the back. And then when someone made like a move over the top of the hill, I found myself in sixth, which I mean is what happens when you're skiing cautiously and nervously. Um, and then I had a pretty good finishing sprint, which so I picked off one person, and then almost picked off Amundsen, which was fun. To like, because fourth would have been a top 20, which would have been cool, but yeah, it was. I didn't ski it well. I was nervous. Skied it scared instead of confident, and but learned a lot from it.
Hmm. Yeah, what did you learn from it?
Yeah, I learned that even if the strategy isn't to go off the front in a sprint, I still need to be like mentally engaged as if I'm fighting for the front the entire time, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Even if I'm trying to conserve energy and like put myself in the middle of the pack, I still need to like be mentally engaged right from the start that I'm trying to eventually get to the front. Because I
Hmm.
think for somehow in that it never like quite clicked that like, yeah, sure, you're saving energy now in the back, but you need to eventually get to the front. Like that's the point of
Hmm.
racing. Um, so it's yeah, confidence and aggression from the start is what I learned.
Yeah. Okay. Do you feel like you were able to kind of take that lesson and apply it to any of your training over the summer and fall this past year and going into this next season?
Uh, Not really, to be honest. I did so few fast skate workouts
Mhm.
with a group. Um, obviously we did some speeds in Craftsbury over the summer. We have a really good training group there. But then come the fall, I did every fast skate workout by myself. And we had one classic sprint simulation which was good. It was a good confidence boost, but No, not really. But I remember the lessons and was able to apply them this year racing.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay. So last year then, after the World Cup starts, how did you wrap up your season? What did the rest of the winter look like for you? Going back to
Yeah,
Colby.
yeah. So I went back home for regionals, which were in Middlebury. Had a decent skate race. Distance skate race had a bad classic distance race, um, which I mean, somewhat to be expected because I was pretty much resting. Had been resting for the last 4 weeks to prepare for Canmore in Minneapolis. Um, and then tried to put in a little bit of training, and then NCAA's was in Steamboat, which is at like 6,700 feet.
Hmm.
So went there. Actually had a decent skate race. I think I was like 27th, which was my best NCAA result so far. And then got like really killed in the 20K Classic mass start. But that's never really been my race anyway. Um, After that, went back home and then tried to race a spring series in Duluth because I another good FIS result would have maybe put me on the B team. Who knows? Um, and then got sick for that and went home. So it was
Oh, shoot.
not the most exciting rest of the season after Canmore, Minneapolis, but I had a couple good distance races and then packed it in for the spring.
Well, and I feel like after a season like that, I mean, to just stand out results in those first World Cups, um, it would have been nice to like carry that momentum, but also it's still an incredible season and really amazing
Hmm.
to watch you kind of just uh, come onto the scene and totally pop off and destroy
Hmm.
it, right?
Yeah, thanks.
So then going into this past summer, did you make any changes to your mental or physical approach to your training or how you were kind of approaching this season that we are now in, knowing that you had period one World Cup starts in the skate sprints?
Hmm. Yeah, so my sophomore and junior year at Colby, I made pretty big hours jumps. Because I hadn't trained that much in high school. And me, Tracy, and Peppa, the GRP coach, felt it was somewhat necessary to boost volume a bit to get faster at distance skiing. Because I mean that was and still is one of my main goals um in skiing is to get faster at distance. Um but then after seeing that like really good result on the World Cup stage and feeling really good about the 2 years of training I'd put in prior to that, me and Peppa agreed that it was a good year to be a little bit more cautious with the volume and my approach to training. Like pretty much my entire mantra this past summer was never dig myself into too deep of a hole. Because
Hmm.
I mean, the 2 years before that, I'd been kind of just trying to really destroy myself once a block and then recover from it, and it worked pretty well. But throughout the entire summer of those 2 years, I was never really rested enough to do anything incredibly fast. Um, so the whole goal for this year was to be rested enough almost all the time to really execute all of the intensity workouts. And then that I did that to even more of a degree in the fall because that's where I think I dropped most of the hours from this year. I think I lost like 25 or 50 hours, and most of them came from the fall, where I was just hyper focused on trying to make every intensity session as quality as possible, especially the ones focused around sprinting, trying to prepare for period one. And yeah, and it was the nice added benefit of that was I felt a lot better in all aspects of life. Like I felt like focus harder on academics. Felt like I was a more agreeable person to be around when I wasn't quite in the trenches as much training. And I was definitely able to do intensity sessions with more focus and more quality. So yeah, that was how I approached it this summer, and it definitely worked on the sprint side of things so far. We'll see how I'm distance skiing when I get back to the ice.
Yeah. Well, you did do some distance skiing in the Tour de Ski. So how was
Mhm.
that experience? 7 races, 9 days. There were two sprints and five distance races. So you got plenty of World Cup distance racing in. What were your big takeaways from that entire experience?
Talk about racing with no pressure. I mean, those distance races, like I was a freaking World Cup field, and I just said my best NCAA's result is like 27th. Like I wasn't expecting anything on the results side, so I kind of went into those races being like, okay, how can I gain some experience? How can I treat these as really good workouts to get faster later in the year? And I actually had one race that I'm really proud of, the 20K individual start, where I wasn't an egregious percent back from the leader. Um, uh, and yeah, the funny thing about the first distance race, which was a 15K classic mass start, was that they seeded it based on the sprint the day before. So I was seeded 17th for this World Cup mass start and proceeded to ski with the leaders for the first K or two and then really implode, but it was cool. Cool little bit of experience to be up there.
Yeah, that is super cool. I similarly had a great skate sprint day and then had my best start in a World Cup mass start. And um, it was super cool to start way up there close to the front and unfortunately
Hmm.
imploded a little bit and got
Yeah.
passed by a couple people, but still super
Hmm.
fun.
Yeah.
So having raced a handful of World Cup sprint races now, is there anything that really stands out to you that you want to improve going forward in terms of maybe it's your starts or some tactics or any element of strength that you feel like, oh, I could really improve this piece here? And I know that sometimes you can have takeaways mid-season that are hard to change and implement right away, and so you kind of have to like you know take away what you can, but then you kind of put it in a box and you're like, we're going to open that in May when I have more time
Yep.
to work on it. Any big takeaways there that you want to work on for next year?
I think the two big takeaways that I can improve via training are starts and finishes.
Mm.
I found in toe block, I really wanted to get out to the front of that heat, my quarterfinal, but I was not strong enough to get out to the front, and the course is only too wide, so I wasn't able to ski that heat like I wanted to, because I wasn't able to start fast enough. And then, similarly, I was pretty rested coming to the finishing straight, and still just could not quite compete with the three other guys in that heat who were in
Hmm.
front of me in that finishing sprint. So yeah, starts and finishes are two things I really want to work on this
Hmm.
summer. But then the third thing that I need just to get better at for sprinting that can't really be fixed too much with training is just experience in World Cup heats. I
Yeah,
think it helps so much every time you get one of those experiences, you learn something. And I think that's going to be something that will get better with as I get more experience.
yeah, for sure. I believe that. Um, and cool to have, you are already having such an incredible career, and it's really cool to see, oh, these are things that I can work on and really make that next step. You've already made a huge step, but like you can make um these improvements going forward as well. Because sometimes I feel like
Hmm.
some folks get to the point where it's like, huh, so like, how else can I improve? Where's that
Yeah.
1%? I'm not
Yeah.
sure,
Yeah.
right? So
Oh
it's
yeah.
nice to have.
Speaking of that, there's definitely another thing is that I'm gonna need to improve with durability for rounds because
Mm,
the after lucky losering through in Davos, I mean obviously if it's a lucky loser heat, it's obviously gonna be pretty fast.
hmm.
I was cooked for the semi. I had
Okay.
absolutely nothing left, and that's another thing that can be fixed through training. So that's
Yeah.
I'm excited about that.
Yeah. Cool. Do you have a strategy on how you can work on that?
Yeah, possibly. I think the bulk of my training has been really focused around qualifiers. Just like kind of like 5 to 6 minutes of on time, of
Hmm.
really like short, fast stuff. And I think as I get a little more confident in my ability to qualify, I can start to move the on time of those intervals up and
Hmm.
into the like 7, 8, 9, 10 minute range. Um, and also add some speed into those like even faster speed into those sessions to mimic heats. I don't know, something I'll talk to Peppa about, but I think that might be the next step.
Yeah. Cool. Well, okay, so we've talked about last year, we've talked about this season so far. What does the rest of the season look like for you?
Yeah, so I am staying in Europe through the Les Rousses Classic Sprint and then the Engadin Freestyle Sprint, and then flying home on January 27th to race 4 carnival weekends, I believe. And then rest up, enjoy being in school, and then race NCAAs in Dartmouth. And then probably back to Europe for period 4 of the World Cup because it's 2 freestyle sprints and a freestyle team sprint. So that's a really good bang for your buck trip.
Yeah, so still plenty of racing left.
Oh yeah. And I'm really excited to get back home because I'm excited to do some lower level distance racing. Well, yeah, ice is a plenty high level for me. It's just I'm so overmatched over here that's it's exciting to get back home.
Yeah, cool. All right, well, Jack, thank you so much for the time for the podcast today. I do have a few wrap-up questions that are meant to just kind
Mhm.
of be like rapid fire. So, without further ado, I'm just gonna start rattling these off, and the first thing that comes to mind, you gotta answer. You ready for it?
Sounds good. Yeah.
Okay. Football or baseball?
Baseball.
Favorite baseball team?
Red Sox.
Favorite football team?
Patriots.
Mountain biking or alpine skiing?
Alpine skiing. But preferably backcountry.
Okay, fair. Cider donuts or maple donuts?
Cider.
Favorite home cooked meal by Mama Young?
Oh yeah, okay, so this is gonna be a combination between mom and dad, but
Okay.
it's gonna be grilled venison loin with potatoes and broccoli.
Wow. Okay. Who does what part?
Dad always with the venison, and my mom will do the broccoli and the potatoes.
Nice. Okay. Favorite board game?
Settlers of Catan.
Favorite video game?
Fortnite.
Favorite World Cup stop so far?
Davos for sure.
What's your favorite gym exercise?
Um, Cleans. Yeah.
Okay. What's your favorite summer workout?
Ooh, 6x10 L3 on the roller ski loop.
Whew. Ouch. What song would you listen to on repeat during that workout?
Oh, good question. I'm not one to listen to music much during workouts, but let's go with Naked in Manhattan by Chapel Roan.
Oh, that's a good one. I honestly was thinking of how I would answer this question. I was like,
Hmm.
probably anything by Chapel Roan. That's pretty good.
Nice.
Okay, we are in Italy right now. What's your favorite gelato in Italy so far?
Low key, the vanilla was so good. So I'm gonna go with
Mm-hmm.
that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Nothing beats just like a really good classic vanilla. That's great.
Hmm.
All right, last question. If you could talk to Jack Young 6 years ago, what message would you want to give him, or what would you tell him?
Ooh, that is a great question. So 6 years ago, I was a sophomore in high school. Um, I mean, I think the advice would be trusting the process. Like
Mm-hmm.
I never had too much of a problem trusting the process, but that I think that's if there's one message I could really try to hammer into my younger self, it's that. Yeah, trust the process and enjoy the time you're living in. Like I had so much fun um playing all the sports I did at a younger age, and I want to remind myself to keep having that fun and live in the moment.
Yeah, cool. I love that. Thank you, Jack, for answering all my questions and for joining me today on the Extra Blue podcast. I will be cheering for you through these next few World Cups while I'm along with you, and also once you go
Yeah.
back for the carnival circuit, it'll be fun to continue to follow along.
Thanks, Elena.
Thanks, Jack. Thank you for listening to this episode of Extra Blue, and thank you, Jack, for joining me on this podcast. I also owe Jack a big thank you for his patience, as it took me some time to get this episode published. What I appreciate the most about Jack is that he is not afraid to be honest with you, even if it means being a little bit vulnerable. Ski racing can be a beautiful sport, and most folks looking in from the outside just see the Olympics as the pinnacle of sport. This is a hard thing to grapple with when, in reality, the sport exists at this level every single day. It's just that not everyone is always watching. As someone who recently just missed out on making the Olympic team, I can empathize with Jack's polarizing thoughts and feelings about not starting at the Olympics. Is that really what this sport is all about? I don't think so. I think it's about the journey and the process an athlete takes to setting really big, scary goals, and the person that they become while chasing that dream. Not all dreams come true, but the people you meet and the relationships you build are worth more than an Olympic medal. And those people who matter most don't care about titles, qualifications, or medals. I think that a growth mindset is so important no matter what type of goal or life you're chasing. I'm so proud of Jack for chasing growth. I'm proud of myself for chasing growth. And I challenge you to consider chasing growth in a big way that might scare you, because you never know who you'll meet or the experiences you'll have along the way.